Hello, this is Laura Paisley Beck, and welcome to the Be the Glitter podcast, where we talk about tough topics with giggles and spread inspiration that sticks. In this episode, I interview the fabulous Rachel Cruz, aka DJ Girl Cruz, a gorgeous role model for those of us in the LGBTQ community and allies alike. She shares the mantra that got her through transition, music that got her through tough times, and the best stories of Pride concerts. Steep your tea and listen.
There you are. Oh, you
How
look
you
so
doing?
beautiful.
Oh, lovely to meet you.
It's lovely to meet you too. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for showing up for this.
Oh no, thanks for asking me. I'm always up for a podcast in my busy schedule. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this.
Okay, great. I as well. I just always thought you were just not only so beautiful, but you have this amazing energy. And I love that you've got several different jobs. You're a DJ as well as working for the alternative energy.
So EDF Energy,
What do
yeah.
you do for them?
So I'm an energy sales specialist. I've worked in call centers though nearly 30 years. So
Wow.
um, 25 years I was a top salesman, and then became a top saleswoman. And then of course, when I relocated to the Northeast, where I met my wife to be, um, it needed to be an inclusive company. So EDF mission statement is everybody's welcome. I thought, well, are they ready for Rachel? And they were. So I joined, and a week later, I messaged the director of ED&I and said, I want to go on the committee, inspire, make a difference, motivate, educate, and all those amazing words. And here I am doing multiple roles now, with a company that champions ED&I and gives me the space away from what I should be doing, to go to these awards and um, guest speak at Unison and all around the UK and things like that. So I feel very privileged and humble that I get to do what I do with the support of my senior managers. And of course, the managing director himself, Philippe Comare, who, his door's always open. I can have a FaceTime whenever I wish. And he normally says yes when I ask him for something. So, yeah, I'm very, very privileged, and
Love
cheeky.
that.
But if you don't ask, you don't get, do you? So you
Yes.
can
Oh my
only say
gosh.
no. That's the way I look at it. So,
I love that.
yeah.
That's so bold. So many people are afraid to ever ask for what they really need or want.
Mhm.
That's something we have kind of in common. I was in sales for a long time and I was a top salesperson and um but a few years ago I realized I just needed to change absolutely everything about my life. So that's when I came out as a writer and bisexual at the same time, and no one was surprised at all.
I mean, again, I can identify because, in me past life, I was engaged 6 times, and engagement number six, I actually stopped my wedding at the altar to come out as Rachel. So, um, I know about taking a new direction, and the best decision that I ever made. So I can
Yeah, same
understand
here.
it. And all of a sudden, this weight just disappears that you've carried round all those years, and it was that simple, or so it seemed. So, yeah,
Yeah, I was just writing about that in my first draft of my newsletter that all I have to do is think back to I call it my personal Independence Day, the day of my divorce.
yeah,
And um, all I have to do is think about that relief. I mean, there is nothing like that level of relief, or at least for me, that was the biggest relief I had ever had. Just boom, and it was over so fast. I was just sitting there in shock. Like,
yeah,
really? And
yeah,
it's just the elation just came over me. I was like, okay, I have
yeah,
to remember this feeling because this. this right here was all worth it.
I think what it is, you don't realize that you're the artist of your own life and you shouldn't give that paintbrush to anybody else. And one day it just clicks. And um, when we've done our speak today, I'll finish on a mantra that's got me through, the 10 years of my transitioning. But each day, I want it to be so good that yesterday's jealous.
Oh, I
And
love
that's
that so
that's all
much.
month, all year, all week, and I think I'm never, satisfied on how good the day before was. I want to make a difference, more so the next day. So
Make yesterday envious of your today.
yeah, make
Oh,
today
I
so
love
good
that.
that yesterday's jealous.
So good. Well, I'll let us, this is still recorded, so I
I
can always
know.
add these
Oh,
snippets in there or
of
make
course you
it like
can. Yeah.
exclusive content you don't get to hear unless you pay or something. We'll see,
Yeah.
but well, oh gosh, welcome to the Be the Glitter podcast, where we discuss tough topics with giggles and leave inspiration that sticks. And Rachel Cruz, I would very much appreciate it if you could introduce yourself and your fabulousness.
I'm Rachel Cruz. I'm based in the UK. I work for EDF Energy. I'm currently an energy sales specialist, although I'm the site lead for their LGBTQ plus supporters network and also Unison site lead for their LGBTQ plus supporters network, which enables me to get about the UK and guest speak and do webinars. That's a bit about me. My pronouns are she and her, and I've been transitioning on this inspirational journey for over 10 years now.
That's fantastic. I'm a she, they, and yes, welcome so
Thank you so much for
much.
having me.
Well, I know one of the main themes I wanted to discuss with you was music, but also with like the sub or foundational topic or theme of empowerment. It just seems like you're so inspirational and so powerful with your energy. Yeah, I think you, as somebody who's also a DJ, in addition to working for the energy industry, have a unique perspective on what music does for us as humans and how inclusive music is so important, I think. People can find belonging in music. So, how, if you don't mind switching to your DJ role and maybe sharing with us how this has been looking, especially with the changing political climate as well, and how music plays an important role.
I think music for me has always been a big part of my life. I can remember when my sister, when I must have only been 3 or 4, and she took me to a friend's house and they had Bridge Over Troubled Water by Simon and Garfunkel, which is, if you've not heard that album live in Central Park, it's just the most beautiful album, and they done it for free. And I remember thinking back to that track, how amazing it was. I was in, it must have been 1970 or so. And then I was always shy growing up, and I got to 15 and I thought, how am I going to meet girls? That was me inner lesbian in there, if I can't dance. And at the top of the road was a ballroom dancing school. So we went up, me and my friend, and we said, we don't want to do any of that ballroom stuff. We want to just learn disco. Anyway, he said to me and my friend, can I ask you a question? So we looked at each other. We said, yeah, why have you come here to meet girls? So we went, yes. He said, well, if you just learn disco dancing, there'll be 4 disco dancers in 2 hours in the main ballroom with 500 people in. He said, but if you learn Latin American and um, ballroom dancing. You can dance with girls all night. So we looked at each other and we were like, don't tell the lads. So that started my journey doing Argentine tango, Viennese waltz, sorbas, jive, rock and roll. And I ended up being a professional ballroom dancer. And during that time, my friend said, come and see my cousin doing this robot dance. Anyway, we picked it up and I taught a routine and we went to the Isle of Man and we danced in front of 5,000 people in a show for 3 months as the speciality act. And that was the days where I was getting into hip hop and I was importing electro albums from HMV in New York because you couldn't get them in the UK. And that got me into breakdancing and body popping. And I'd done that for about 4 months. And when I came back for a break, I thought, well, I'll off I'll go and I'll go to Ibiza to have a break. And I was dancing on a podium and I ended up getting asked to dance on stage professionally. So I danced with the likes of David Guetta, Kathy Mambo and Fatboy Slim and Carl Cox and Judge Jules and K-Class and all this house music and uplifting trance was there. So wind forward to lockdown. And of course, along the way, I always liked the Beatles. Who wouldn't? And I went to see
Yeah.
Paul McCartney at Christmas and just cried my eyes out. So, um, anyway, I got into lockdown and I thought, I wonder if I could teach myself to DJ because there's too many male DJs out there with no personality, and I can bring all of that and some. So I taught myself to DJ, got some decks, um, got into me house music again and me piano house and me trance and me soulful house and me deep house and music is everything that I'm about and it's always me happy place. So to give you what it means to me, I think there's many reasons in no particular order. One, it's why our hearts have beats because music can just give you that escapism to somewhere different, whatever feelings you've got. It can take you back, to a song that your parents liked or when you left high school or what have you. So it triggers all these memories for you, often really good ones. Um, and getting to DJ that I do at festivals and the bigger the crowd, the better. Last year I DJ'd Pride in Sunderland, which I've organised this year. And on top of all the usual tracks that I was playing, and the crowd were loving everything. I finished on Living on a Prayer by
Bon Jovi.
Bon Jovi. And as far as the eye could see, even the security guards, people at the side of the stage, they were all singing. So music is a place to escape into a little window, forget all your troubles. Yeah, and it just means a hell of a lot to me. It's just me happy place. Although at my wedding in September to my wife to be Michelle, who's also trans like me. I've been told I can't DJ. I won't get behind the booth in my dress anyway. So, but yeah, it's music is a happy place and a good place to escape to and can give you a lot of joy. And especially at the moment why vinyl is so cheap compared to the likes of CDs and stuff and things like that. So it's a
Yeah.
good time to be into it.
And what I love about your story about that last event that you just DJ'd is what proof that music brings everyone together.
It's
So,
unreal.
how many of the people there in that crowd all having that thing in common, the music in common, and that joy, and community in common would normally, enjoy a cup of tea together or, send each other a little note. They probably wouldn't share as much together outside of that music experience. So the fact that music can be that glue um, tells a lot, I
And
think.
even for people on the neurodivergent spectrum, when I was looking across that crowd, there's people from all backgrounds. And the reason I played that particular track is because this Friday I'm DJing on the truck for DHL for Pride in Birmingham. There's be about 75,000 people there. Last year, I was a wheel marshal, and in the middle of all the usual tracks like Born This Way, Lady Gaga, etc., I put Living on a Prayer on, and the whole 75,000 people were singing it. And Michelle looked at me as if to say, and I just went, because you didn't expect it. So, yeah, it does bring people together from all walks of life. I even have my senior uh, um, principal tenants in the front row singing to Living on a Prayer, the big boss of Doxford. So yeah, it does bring and unite people all together. And
I
again,
love
last week
that.
I seen Brian Adams live again, and he was right in front of me, and he was just incredible, just incredible. So yeah, it's good for the soul.
It is good for the soul. I grew up as the little kid, 9 and 11 years younger than my older brothers. And they had the Koss headphones that took up the whole side of my head and these electric blue 8-track tape boom boxes. And I would beg them to listen to some music, their music instead of my Sesame Street vinyl records and my Puffin Stuff. I had a Puffin Stuff vinyl record. And Jesus
Wow,
Christ Superstar was also one of my
of
favorite
course.
soundtracks. Um, and I was always dancing, and singing. I was always a singer when I was really little. And so when I got to listen to Queen, I mean, I had at the time, it's a different greatest hits now, but whatever their greatest hits 8-track tape was, I had that entire thing memorized by the time I was 4 years old. And I could sing, of course, that high note in the Bohemian Rhapsody and just loved it. And also ABBA was, I just could not get enough ABBA.
Yeah,
And so now if I'm in a karaoke situation, I just have to go to ABBA where nobody else is like looking into ABBA songs in today's karaoke, at least not in my neck of the woods. So when I break that out, it's amazing how literally everybody can sing along or at least groove with it. Like nobody's mad that I'm singing Take a Chance on Me or something like
ABBA
that.
is, if you think back to Muriel's Wedding, what a movie, with ABBA in it. But I was at the Diva Awards in London about 2 weeks ago, and there was stag doos and they all had cowboy hats on. But then obviously ABBA Voyagers down there in the UK. So there's loads of people in ABBA clothes, and that's another amazing group. Yeah, great, great music from them.
Yeah, and they just keep making music, right? It's
It's
just kind of,
incredible,
they're not going away. They're still making albums. Yeah, and
amazing.
I think it's so important. Just ever since COVID, probably before COVID times, the youth were having such a difficult time feeling like they belonged. And especially those from underrepresented groups,
Yeah.
BIPOC kids, of course, those of in the LGBTQIA plus group, the queer kids, those who weren't even out yet. Everyone's having a difficult time belonging. And social media wasn't helping, but how are you finding that um, inclusion and representation matters in music?
I mean, diversity and inclusion is so important. And if I think back to last year when we went to Milton Keynes Pride, which was in a massive field with loads of stalls, and the amount of younger children that were experimenting with their identity was just beautiful. And I think the inclusion being expressed with the icons that you see, whether that be Scissor Sisters or Lady Gaga, or a lot of the non-binary as well artists, it's for the younger generation seem to just get it. If you're walking about in the streets as a trans woman, it's never the younger people that tend to make a comment if they hear your voice or what have you, because they're so advanced they're more advanced than when we were younger. they just get things so quickly, and they get that diversity. And I think the inclusion it comes from the upbringing of that the parents give them. You know,
Mhm.
if it's same-sex parents, they're on it right away, aren't they? I've got two
Yeah.
dads, I've got two moms, but in general, it's down to that education in the beginning. And I think with social media, when it's used in a positive way, and it's used for the reach, like Instagram, for instance, as well, of those. And then, of course, you got Eurovision, which is the most diverse and inclusive, from all the countries around the world. Um,
Yeah.
the younger generation do see that, and again, it's down to that education that hopefully they get in that beginning, from the
Hmm.
parents or parents that gets them to identify that. And as you know, there's a lot on the neurodivergent spectrum. You know, we are too. Yes, we're neurotypical, you could say, being hypothetical there, but we're still on the spectrum, however you look at it, in our beautiful little way, just as they are. So, there's challenges that they face. But
Yeah.
I think the older music has a lot of expression in it when it was a much better world. So the likes of ABBA, even the Beatles, which the tunes are just timeless, aren't they? And yeah, the music is inclusive, and it is a way of expression. If you think back to Björk, what an album that was. It was just
Right?
incredible, silently happy, and that, what an expressive person she was from
Yeah.
Iceland. She was like a Eurovision on her own, wasn't she? So
Yeah.
I think expression in music and inclusivity, it is there. And it's helped by obviously the likes of the videos and the YouTube and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, the more um people recognize that as youth, they probably weren't racist or anti-trans or homophobic or misogynistic even, that is learned behavior over
Of
time.
course.
And so I do find hope in your observations that, today's youth is just um, they've got some adult support and representation to help them stay as inclusive as they currently are. I remember this old BBC commercial, and it's hard to find now, but I loved that it was um, they were interviewing all these little pairs of kids who were best friends. They must have been at most 8 years old. And they're asking them, what makes you different? And, to us as adults watching this, you can see, well, obviously this one's black and this one's white. Well, obviously this one's in a wheelchair and this one's not. And obviously she's Asian and he's a blonde kid and, whatever. But they're just like, oh, what? Well, no, what makes us different? And then it's like, oh, well, she likes tomato sauce and I don't like tomato sauce that much. It's like,
It's simple, isn't it? When you think about it, because kids don't see color, they don't see disability, they just see the friend. I
yeah,
think back at school, we had an A, B, C, and D table. Now the D table just happened to be, looking back now, people who were neurodivergent, you know, and they were just stuck there as if they weren't clever. And I'm looking back thinking that was disgraceful.
yeah,
But going back to that observation, I was at London Pride with Michelle, and it was after the parade, and there was 1.5 million people watching us. Anyway, we went into a Burger King, and it was busy, and we just wanted a drink really. And I sat down, and there was a little girl. She must have been 6, with a big roll of LGBT plus hearts stickers. And I could see her mum going, go and ask her, go and ask her. So she come over and she goes, would you like a sticker? like a stick. And I said, can I have one for my girlfriend? And she went, where is she? And she's there. And she gave her one as well. But that simple act and education means she's growing up
Yeah.
inclusive, you know,
Yeah.
and it was just
Yeah.
beautiful to see. So I was really proud for her mum as well.
I just love that. Oh,
Mm.
that's so good to hear. And I think, there's um so much acceptance uh, for who can be whatever identity they are if they're a celebrity, and then us regular people are supposed to fit in this box, as far as like a lot of the cis het,
You know,
conservative right-wing people, just want it's okay for some, musical artists and for some painters and for Hollywood stars to be whatever because they're just put in a different category. But all of us regular folks are supposed to fit into this box. And I hope that the youth break that, and I hope music can continue to break that too.
yeah, definitely. I mean, the thing is, it's simple, isn't it? Because who you are is no one's business. Yet they seem to
Exactly.
want to tell you who you are and what you're meant to be. And like I said, music is my happy place. And my message to anybody would be, you know, get yourself a pair of earbuds. And I have YouTube Premium, so there's no adverts, and I have a download catalog of everything. And I love the way it'll just put together my mixes that I've listened to. I'm now on Mixcloud. I have DJ Girl Cruz on Mixcloud, and because people were saying, "Where can we listen to your music?" And I'm like, "Oh, I haven't," because I'm that busy with everything that I do. I wasn't getting down to record, and so now that I record and to say, "Oh, you're number 10 in the house charts internationally," and I'm just blown away. So it is a good place to be when you get your tunes and you just have a bit of you time.
Yeah.
You need to have your you time to recharge. Um, we EDF sponsors the Alzheimer's Society, and I cared for my mum with dementia, and music was always my go-to. So when I knew she was asleep and she was in a good place, I'd go into my bedroom and I'd put some really good music on that I'd like to listen to, just to unwind and to recharge and to reset myself. And it's really important that you have your time to do that. Um, because don't forget, the next day you've got to make today jealous, haven't you? So we need to get all our energy, um, and have a bit of reflection, think about where you go and what you want to do, what you've achieved, what you're grateful for. Constantly telling myself all these things all the time, about how fortunate I am. There's people so worse off. I try to keep away from all the negativity around the world. There's bunches of it. I just
Yeah.
focus on one day at a time and, be thankful for what I have. And again, it's music that can give you that escape, and those feel good moments as well. So, yeah, it's definitely a happy place when you get your favorite tunes on.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking of even when I hear a certain song and it reminds me of a precious college friend, or it
Exactly.
reminds me of this amazing experience I had with someone who's dear to me. I try to instantly share that song with them in a message, and just even say if I'm crazy busy and it's like, oh gosh, at least say thinking of you. And it always has this magic of reconnection and remembering that we matter, we do belong, and we have had this beautiful life with amazing, good people who still love us and care about us. Um, and, that's just one small example. Are you thinking or realizing any other experiences and where music can actually help empower us?
It does. It can, I mean, for instance, it can give you motivation. You know,
Hmm.
you promise yourself, I'll go to the gym tonight, and you never get round to it. And you get yourself there and you put something on a soundtrack to something that gives you that energy, that inspiration to do what you want to do and to think a bit more clearly. So, yeah, music, it's so versatile in how you listen to it. I was speaking to a customer on the phone before and we were talking about London, and I said, oh, I'm there again. And I'm at the Rainbow Honours Awards in 2 weeks because we've been nominated for another award on network. And I said, should I just come back? I was seeing such and such a ballet. And I said, oh, I absolutely love Swan Lake. Swan Lake is so beautiful, as you hopefully you know. I just cried my eyes out. So every different type of music can just reach you in a different place that you never thought it could, and take you back, like you said, to that memory. Seeing Paul McCartney play Let 'Em In at the O2 in London, it just broke me, that song. I love it. I listen to it all the time. So you can have
Yeah.
all these amazing memories that are there that no one can take out. And like you said, reaching out to people with a song to pick them up when that's enough, and listen to the lyrics, and is a great thing, a great power that music has when you listen to it.
Hmm. I had a second cousin who was born only a few months before me because of just how, family lines up funny sometimes. And my dad realized we had never met. And so he flew her from the West Coast over to my graduation so we could get to know each other better. And um, I happened to sing Bridge Over Troubled Waters at my high school graduation, and she fell in love with the song and that moment of
That
getting to
song.
know me that way, that she was getting married. She, here my dad and I are on our way out there. We get in the rental car and she says, "Oh, by the way, can you sing Bridge Over Troubled Waters at my wedding ceremony?"
Oh wow, did you?
I
That's
did.
amazing.
And this was a long time ago now. And um our rental car only had cassette tapes.
Yeah.
If you can remember. And so my dad and I were visiting Mount Rainier Park, and the ranger told us to go check out this amazing osprey nest and told us where to park and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, I was such a tomboy, and dad knew this. Like, I didn't take much to just suddenly like go from catching frogs to going to a wedding ceremony. So it was like, how much time do you need? I need 5 minutes, like literally, like will not do too much. And so we go from, yeah, totally hiking, exploring stuff. I even picked like some flowers or whatever. And then all of a sudden we're on our way to the wedding, and I'm like going through the song in my head. And I'm like, "Oh shoot, Dad, I don't remember. Do you remember like what happened?" And we both like blanked, like our minds went blank on the lyrics. So he just like was like, "Well, I think I remember seeing a music store," because this was before GPS or anything
Yeah,
like that,
yeah.
right? So we found like I want, some kind of music store, got the only cassette tape of Bridge Over Troubled Waters, and
Wow.
listened to it
Wow.
in the car on the way to her wedding so I can remember the
Oh, that's
lyrics.
incredible.
So it's like,
Wow.
I always say if something doesn't go wrong, it's not as memorable. And it's
Yeah. Wow.
music has a way of bringing out these things, whether it's like a funny dance moment that you had, or something crazy that happened in a concert, with some stranger, and next thing you know, you're best friends, or, body passing somebody at a Pearl Jam concert, or, remembering trying to learn, my partner's trying to teach me how to play bass guitar, and I could just imagine experiences in somebody's garage or basement with somebody, and that's their special moment through music. And Um, I
That's in,
hope that the youth of today can find these kinds of like in-person moments with music that'll stick with them forever.
well, I was watching something. It was some young kids, must have been in the teens, and they were playing Supertramp. It's raining again in the street to an audience, and they even done Sade, Smooth Operator, and they were all, but these are all old albums and groups, so
Yeah,
they are tapping into that now because as you know, a lot of music now is rubbish, you know, just done in a studio, whereas these albums were proper groups and they were playing, he'd done a Hall and Oates track and the saxophone was on point, and then the guy on the bass who's like 12 was on point, the drummer, and we're saying the age of them and they get it. They're listening to all these proper groups from all those years ago, 10cc and and ELO and Hall and Oates and the playing. And so that's answering your question. The really clever ones whose parents probably have these albums at home where they're getting played, and then it's inspiring them to want to learn bass, to play it like on that track. It is
yeah,
there, and that is takes you back to the quality of when you hear a track on vinyl. You know, when you buy yourself, when you buy an album back in the day, your money's worth was there. You held it and it was heavy, and the album cover was awesome. And whereas
yeah.
when it was a CD,
And it was a
and
full
there's a
piece.
scratch on it, and it's
Yeah,
very flimsy, and the case breaks, and it's not the same to an album. I jumped on eBay and I got Toto 4 um,
wow.
um, by Toto.
Yeah,
Africa, the biggest selling song, was the
yeah,
last song on side two, believe it or not. Because back in the
yeah,
day, that's how it was. And I got it
yeah,
on eBay for, in your currency, $10. And it
yeah,
was immaculate. And it was an
yeah,
original. I got Michael Jackson Thriller off eBay, immaculate original. You know, um,
yeah,
and it's these vinyl albums that have inspired the younger generation when they're listening to what they listen to, because
yeah,
those type of bands and those type of tracks of music take you to a happy place when you're in your
yeah,
room, when you're having a bit of you time, or they're on the bus going to school or going to college, So music is a companion that's always there for you when you need it. I mean,
yeah.
I went on the sunbed with a knife on a lay down, but I didn't want any music. I just wanted a bit of me time. But as soon as I got back in the car, I'd put my music on to get back in the zone, listen to a mix that I'd done, So yeah, I think youth do get inspired by the proper music, that has
Right.
history. To think the 80s is 45 years ago is unreal. But the
Yeah.
music from then it's just timeless, isn't it?
Well, and to your point, the current day artists are encouraged to put out singles, a digital single track as a teaser to maybe an album that's coming out. And you'll even see some artists will just bring out a single after a single, and the album will come together over time. But it's not necessarily put together. Some are really thinking about the whole album as one big art show, if you will, but some some aren't. It's not the same as that commitment to putting all of the music into this continuously playing physical vinyl record that is meant to last a really long time. And I think there is a beauty and an artistry to that. And then pick out which songs were the perfect songs to put on a mixtape with all your heart and mind putting this perfect compilation together for somebody that you cared for. And that whole cassette tape was your like admittance of feelings, like this is how much I care about you tape.
Yeah, we done that in the UK as well. But going back to the way you put music out, there was nothing better when you'd hear a track. I'll give you an example. So, like Two Princes, Pocket Full of Kryptonite. I bought the album, and it was one of those albums where the first song you just liked right away. Then the second song, and they hadn't been released, and that's when you had that excitement of a new album that you were just
Yeah,
liking these track. Going back to putting tapes together, an order of songs on albums. So Robbie Williams, as you know, Angel was his biggest selling hit of all time.
yeah,
And when he had all the tracks for the album, they could have picked anyone. And he knew the first track they picked to release as a single was going to make or break the album, and they chose that. Now, that song reminds me, going back to what we spoke about the beginning of this, to me, one of my ex-girlfriend's brother who's no longer with us, but he absolutely loved that album and he loved
mm,
that track. So when I hear that track, it just takes me right back to the
yeah,
lovely Alan, who's no longer with us. So yeah, it does give you some good memories and some lots of sincerity in the thoughts that you have towards those tracks. But making a mixtape at school, yeah, so you'd give that to somebody hoping that they liked the tracks and you'd put it all together. Yeah, those were the
with
days.
meaning. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
those were the days.
So, I guess, you there's so much going on in the UK right now, as well as, of course, in the US and other places in the world. But I think what can we say to people in our community to help them stay strong during these times, especially as we're approaching Pride Month? And how is music going to help us?
I think, I mean, Pride is it's all about diversity and inclusion, isn't it? And it is a straight pride. You just don't get it, do they? They don't realize pride isn't about being gay. It's about being inclusive and it's about being diverse and it's about how beautiful we all are as an
Mhm.
individual. You know, you have to love yourself. You're amazing. There'll only ever be one of you, and the music through pride is can be inspirational. So for instance, I mentioned Lady Gaga, Born This Way. You know, you've got the Village People YMCA. I mean, that was just a flagship tune back in the day. You know, I remember going in Studio 54 in New York when I used to dance professionally, thinking about the history. When I used to watch Soul Train, I used to think that was just so cool. That
Yeah,
the format and it'd come down in pairs and it was so funky. And I
yeah,
was just like, oh my God, that's just so amazing. I think that's probably where I got some of me hip hop from and me love for disco. But I think with going to a Pride and realizing that actually they're just like me. You know,
yeah,
I thought I had no family, but my family is all there. It's all
yeah,
inclusive. It's all diverse. There's moms with free mom hugs. We're running over, hugging them. Um, and again, it takes us back to escapism, doesn't it? So when I'll be DJing to 75,000 on Saturday, um, I'll have all the usual tunes in there that pick people up. Of course, I'll play "This Is Me," and it'll be an anthem. And I'll cry again as I'm DJing it. And it is an inspiration for people. And the first thing I did when I came out as Rachel was I joined an LGBT foundation and volunteered for them, and that was my therapy. Um,
yeah.
I also done I'm a black belt second dan in jiu-jitsu, so I was teaching self-defense classes. I was teaching dance classes
Great.
for people to come out the shell, and it was just getting out the house and having that confidence to you know, initially I got a taxi to there, whereas in the end I was confident enough to get on a bus, as me, and spinning that round to how things are now, it is extremely tough out there. And my advice would be just focus on your own journey, and where you want to go with that. Have the right support around you. You need that foundation for you to grow strong through whatever. Um, Join your local community hub that's there, whether that's online or you're able to go and meet it while around the world, including the UK, about trying to get rid of pride flags and all this type of thing going on. So stay away from that side of social media, because I'll guarantee you the negative parts will filter through, but let them, because you can't stop them. But don't be always reading it. Just focus on your own journey. Get your own support network around you. Don't be afraid to talk and to reach out if you're not feeling yourself or you need that support. Um, have that confidence to approach people. Um, just don't keep it inside. It's good to talk, and there's always
Yeah.
somebody there to listen. So, yeah, the music will inspire you, bringing it full circle again. Find your favorite tune. There's an artist called Newton Faulkner. I don't know whether you've heard of him out there, but there's lyrics to a song that I used to listen to when I hadn't transitioned in my past life, and the lyrics are: "There's a place I go when I'm alone, do anything I want, be anyone I want to be." God, that's getting me there. And I used to sing that song, and it used to take me out of where I was to where I hoped it'd be, which was to be me. So, yeah, music can just take you from somewhere and give you the strength and the encouragement and the power to be your most amazing self as well. When we are finished, let me know, because I will read out my mantra, which again is just encapsulating everything about, your true authentic self. And it's never too late, as we both know, to be
Yeah.
happy. But first and
Well,
foremost, we have to love ourselves.
absolutely. I mean, that's the most beautiful thing and scary for some people, to be as you can be, to be as me as I can be. But oh boy, once you really get grooving on yourself and letting yourself be as you as you can be, wow, it just feels incredible.
It does. And we're all beautiful in our own way, and I think we've got to understand and tap into us and give ourselves the love we so freely give to others.
Yeah,
Have our me time. We deserve it, and it makes us stronger. And if we have our me time, then we can put another foot forward in front of the other, and we can,
yeah,
tackle the challenges that come towards us. If I go back a couple of years, I became homeless overnight, and the girl that I was living with tried to assault me. But obviously, because I'm a second down black belt, I was able to sort that out. But I left the home, and I was homeless. I was sleeping in a bush by a ship canal just so I could get some strength for the next day. I remember sitting in this bush, and it was about -2, feeling so cold, thinking, this is the most surreal dream I've ever had. Is this really happening? And you spin that forward 10 years, where I own my own home, I get to DJ, I'm getting married, in September. Um, I didn't commit suicide when I was going to jump off the top of a 25th story building. You've just got to believe in yourself, um, and you'll get there. You'll get there, but with the right people around you, the right support mechanism there, and the belief of how amazing and wonderful you are.
thank you. I think it's time for your mantra, if you're okay
Okay,
with that.
I am. So I'm going to leave you with this, and this mantra has got me through the 10 years of my transitioning. Whenever you're down, read this. I still read it now sometimes. It'll pick you up, and it'll make you realize how amazing you are. You can rise up from anything. You can completely recreate yourself. You're not stuck. You have choices. You can create new habits. You can learn something new. All that matters is that you decide today and never look back. There you go.
That was beautiful and perfect. Thank you
Thank you
so
so much,
much.
Laura. This has been beautiful. And thank you for doing what you do, because I think podcasts they're a brilliant thing for people to do. Not like myself, because I'm not shy, but for people who are shy but want to just talk as if they're not being interviewed and express how they feel. And it's good the way you sort of go off topic and come back on. And, the way it's done is really, really beautiful and
Thank you.
addictive as well. So thank you so much for what you do and for inviting me. I'm glad you're feeling much, much better,
Oh,
because
thank you.
we're all
Yes, me
there.
too.
There's so many different variations on COVID now. It is ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah,
But I think podcasts are just absolutely amazing. So thank you so much for having me.
thank you. How can people reach you?
Um, DJ underscore Gail Cruz on Instagram. On there, you'll see a picture
Mhm.
and a poster, which is positive energy. So you see a picture and a poster. And so when you look at my Instagram, it's very easy on the eye. And I had a lady reach out from New Zealand who has the same format. That got her attention to reach out, but also she does the same as me with the positivity. So we've become friends. And it's just a positivity that has spread on there. Obviously, I'm on Mixcloud as DJ Gail Cruz. Um, I'm on Facebook as well, but you can reach me on DJ underscore Gail Cruz, or indeed Rachel.Cruz2 at edfenergy.com. But I'll put all those details in the chat as well. If you need any positivity, I'm your gal. And if you can be anything in life, be kind. Thank you for that, Laura.
Oh, thank you, Rachel. Thank you
Really
so
lovely to speak
much.
to you. A big love to you all out there and for being you and being vocal and doing what you do, because we're going nowhere, are we?
We just have to do the best we can,
We
even
do.
if that's one song at a time.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I think we need to send a couple of copies of This Is Me to the White House, put it through the letterbox, just let them put it on repeat. You have to listen to it, won't they? But really lovely speaking to you, Laura.
Lovely speaking with you too, Rachel. You have a
And
beautiful, beautiful rest of
no,
your night.
you too, and know that you're loved. Take care.
You too.
Bye, Laura. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye, lovely. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. My invitation to you is to help spread Be the Glitter. Please click subscribe. Like this episode, comment with your favorite takeaway, and look in the description for a link to a free inspirational journal prompt guide to help you through tough times. Thank you.